And I want to, that leads me to just ask you, Xav, like, what was that moment of impact that you realized how much value you actually bring, right? What was that situation where you impacted an individual or a school or you know, a person that you helped, you know, transition to where you said, man, this impact that I'm having is about more than making money. You know what I'm saying? It's a value that's greater than what I'm even asking them to give me in return.
Yeah, man. The first thing that came to my mind is that, you know, one of my core values as a person is value. Like I absolutely positively, like, getting paid is cool, but I absolutely positively want you to know that Xav is valuable. His presence, being here, what he brings to the table, depends on who you are, it can benefit you. And so it sounds cliche, but it's so real when you experience it for yourself. But it's just like, what would you do if like money wasn't an option? So I remember, you know, it was in the beginning stages of my entrepreneurship journey. And I was talking about, like, I did a presentation at a local high school. And it's so funny how God works. Like, I currently work at that high school, like, right now.
Mercy.
Yeah. It's just like, what were you doing all back then, God? But I forgot what organization or group it was with, and it was free. It was like a career day, and I was just talking about boys etiquette. Back up, when I first moved to Houston, like, I've always liked etiquette. Like I like the idea and the belief that like men should be gentlemen, and so on and so forth. So when I first moved to Houston, I'm gonna be an etiquette coach. So I literally got trained by Ann Miller Etiquette in Houston, Texas, and she, like, an OG. She's been doing it for such a long time. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do etiquette classes, and And then I was like, I really want to do that. And so it was in that season of my life where I was just like, well, let me, instead of etiquette, like gentlemanhood. And so I did a presentation, and, you know, it was well received for the most part. But afterwards, the boys were coming up to me because a part of my presentation, we learned how to tie ties. We were in the inner city, and, you know, unfortunately, a lot of those young men did not know how to tie ties. And I brought ties and I brought bow ties, and I just, that day is etched in my memory because they were going to prom like the very next day, and they were just so excited. These young Black boys were just so excited, like, yo, I know how to tie a tie. I don't only know how to tie a tie, I know how to tie a bow tie as well. I'm going to tie my bow tie for prom tomorrow. And it was in that moment, it was just like, it's all about the impact. It's all about taking people to the next level. That's what we do as coaches and consultants. It's like, you take this person from point A to point B, and, you know, you might listen and think like that's super small and that's super unsignificant, but it absolutely is significant when the trajectory of these boys' life. I was just reading something a couple of days ago, and it was just an argument. It was probably on Twitter. Because they're always arguing on Twitter, right?
Right.
So it was an argument, and people were talking about, like, oh, JSU and Deion Sanders, and the boys wearing suits, and, you know, the other argument was kids wearing hoodies and hats in school, and just understanding, like, yo, they might be feeling like very low, and let them wear their hoodie. We wear our hoodie when we were like, man, I don't want to be bothered. I'm about to hop in, go to Target right quick, Whole Foods, you know, if you're bougie, or Walmart, and Kroger, and HEB if you live in Texas. But so it was just a conversation on, like, attire. And someone mentioned, they said it's important to talk to, that's what it was. So Deion Sanders, there was a picture of the boys, and one of the, you know, it was a 2-button suit, and both of the boys, a couple of them had both buttons buttoned. You know, us gentlemen, us dudes that wear suits know that you button the top and you leave the bottom open. If it's a 3-button suit, you button the top 2 and leave the bottom open. And someone made note, like, hey, if you go to a business meeting, you know, it's going to be an expectation. If you go on a scholarship interview, if you are being served, sometimes people, like, we don't want the smallest of the things to make somebody like, you know, like you never were taught that. So that's why it was so impactful being at that school and doing a gentleman talk about these boys, like, yo, treat ladies with respect. Either whether you're dating them or not, right? If you're not attracted, even if it's your homegirl, if it's your mom, if it's somebody that you think is unattractive, like, treat them with respect. Make sure you're walking on the outside and not the inside. And then we ended it with that. And I just remember their faces, and I saw the pictures, and it was just a momentous occasion that I was like, man, it's all about the impact. It's all about, because sometimes the work that I do in the very facets of my life is not microwavable. And it can seem like, oh man, the thankless job, or even if you get paid, like it's not immediate. But planting those seeds, and you got to have faith. You got to believe that the seeds planted will grow. And they remember one thing that you said, and Dr. Maya Angelou said, and I can remember what you said. How'd you make them feel? Did you make? And that's something that I try to do as a biblical entrepreneur, as a man of God. I try to make people feel dignified. I tell people all the time, I don't care if you're the janitor or the CEO, I'm speaking. Right? Hey, how are you doing? Like, I'm not that dude. I try to make people feel seen, feel dignified, feel honored, and respected. You know what I mean? Doesn't matter what age you are, you want and need, and you need to feel respected. So that's something I try to do in like my daily life. So and I hope I did that for those young men. I hope they see me. They probably won't remember me. Hope they see me one day like, yo, you taught me how to tie a tie, and I learned how to be a gentleman from you. And that's like all that I need, man. Hopefully they make it to the kingdom of God. So
amen.
Amen. They can tell me that.
You put them on a trajectory. I mean, sometimes we don't think about how the smallest impact, right? It only takes, right, moving something slightly in a different direction. That way down the line, it ends up in a different place, right? Like if you think about moving 1 degree to the right, if you would have stayed straight, you'd end up at a certain place 3 miles out, but 3 miles out, if you turn 1 degree, you're in a totally different direction, right? And so we don't think about how just a small impact of teaching this young man how to tie a tie and what that means for him. How does he now look at? He had a different feeling about people himself, right? You know what I'm saying? How he thought about people that maybe wore suits, and how maybe he said, I could never get access to a suit, but now he knows how to tie a tie, and now he inspires himself to wear a suit one day soon and very soon. Like, you know what I'm saying? Just these small different transitions. You don't know the impact. And like you say, honestly, it's only in heaven that we're actually going to realize how huge of an impact we had on so many people. I mean, like even you, if I asked you right now, like, how many people have you had an impact on in all of your speaking career up to this point? I mean, what would you say? You probably can't even give me a number.
Knowing me, because you know how we like trying to downplay ourselves and our accomplishment, I'll probably like, not that many, like only a few. You know what I mean? Like no one has said anything to me. So I think like I gotta break out of that habit. But thinking. I don't want to say thinking small. Is it thinking small? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it is thinking small and having a scarcity mindset, because I'm sure you've impacted thousands of people. Right.
Wow. Yeah.
If you sat down and actually just start thinking about it, right? You know, when I left my first, I'm a real estate agent out here in Houston, Texas, right? And when I left my first brokerage to go to a second brokerage, my first broker told me, like, Lionel, are you leaving? Did you really do the work and stuff? You know, kind of try to shame me a little bit, right? So I actually sat down and wrote out all the people I had worked with that first year, right? Wow. Everybody, every single person, right? And I had a huge list when I was done. So I realized, like, it wasn't because I wasn't working with people. Like, I worked with so many people who literally fell through for no other reason than they just decided not to move forward, right? So it wasn't just because I wasn't doing anything, right? But that let me see, like, man, I connected with these many people. And so I'm saying it to say, you, right, if you sit down and did that, if people who are watching this interview, if you sit down and just write out, right, all the people who you have come across in your business, in your, you know, with your product or service, right? And just list out all these people, right, who've even maybe just heard, because we're only thinking about the person who bought. We're only thinking about maybe even the school who hired, right? Or the one that paid. But there's a lot of individuals that were in that range who just heard the information about what your product could do. And maybe down the line, maybe they didn't get your product. Maybe they bought somebody else's product that helped them out down the line. But it was yours that they remembered that had them even look up the certain product in the first place, right? So it's like the impact is so much greater a lot of times than even the monetary value a lot of times that comes back because of it or for it, you know? And we impact thousands of people, millions of people even through our lifetime that we never even remember, that we don't realize, right? And so, you know, I think that's great.